These are four brothers here to provide, guide, and share the heart-centered light from within, utilizing experience and perspective on masculinity as a whole. They now invite you to come on this epic journey to grow with them and watch the magic happen, the movement within.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Chris. Welcome back to another episode of The Movement Within, episode 2. And first question that we have is, what is your truth, Johnny?
Well, your truth is pretty much your word. Your word means everything to me and everybody else in this world. I think truth is, when you speak it, it's something that no one can take away from you. It's at the heart-centered space of yourself. I think speaking your truth is one of the number one things next to actually loving yourself. It's one of those actions words of bringing it from out within yourself out into the outside. And I think a lot of people need to start speaking more truth and getting vulnerable with themselves, and knowing that everybody needs to speak their truth to be who they are, to help everybody else.
Yeah, my truth from within really is where that starts, right? So for me, it comes from intent. It comes from that little voice inside of your head of should I do this or shouldn't I do this, because of what is right and wrong, right? It's what my soul is telling me from the deepest part of it out through my heart and then into my mind. It's something that, for me specifically, it does go to a lot of what Johnny was saying, is a very centered place. Specifically as well, comes from a very divine and sourceful place. In my regards, it would be God, Jesus, source, divinity, whatever that may be. But specifically, it's really just speaking from your soul and having your soul's purpose come out in every single situation, which really comes from intent basis.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like what I'm thinking too, from what Johnny and Derek are saying. I totally believe in truth being part of your values. I think you have to uphold your values as much as you can, and I think that kind of represents the truth about you every day and how you're going to represent who you are every day. And it's just part of life, is just to be truthful. You can't be lying all the time to yourself and to others about, like we were talking about masculinity. You can't really just go out lying to yourself every day, not talking about who you really are. But that's kind of what I think truth is.
What about speaking truth? I know Johnny touched on this a little bit. You want to expand a little bit more on that? Well,
speaking truth is a huge thing. There's a difference between knowing what you want to speak as your truth and actually speaking it. That's what I mean. It's the action part of it, and doing it from a love-centered heart place where you can flow with it and you feel comfortable with speaking your truth, because your truth is essentially who you are. And once you know that, you can share it with other people, and you feel comfortable with it. Speaking truth is just a wonderful, wonderful way to connect also with yourself and everybody else.
Truth, it starts with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to tell yourself the truth. You can't lie to yourself. That's why I think that's a huge part of why I don't love myself, because I think one thing and then I do another thing. I'm like, why would I do that? I don't understand. And so that's why I think that's a huge part. I was thinking about that today, actually. Why do I lie to myself? I don't understand. If I know I'm not supposed to do certain things, but I make up a lie or something, or so I'm not telling myself the truth. And so I think for me, it all begins with yourself, and it goes into awareness. You know yourself, and don't lie to yourself, so you can help other people and share the positivity, the good energy, the good vibes, the whatever you want to call it. And so every time I hear the truth, I take it really serious. I'm it's like what you said, what your word is your bond, basically, right?
Yep.
So mean what you say what you mean, and that's it. That's how I take it.
Yeah, but you gotta quit cheating yourself. That's what it comes down to. Is just quit cheating yourself and love yourself and give yourself that respect of speaking truth.
Yeah.
No matter where it goes through anybody else, it goes through you first, and it will help you immensely on every type of level.
But to that point though, right, everybody's truth could be different, right? So for an example, there's been many times where I've provided a coaching session or some type of session in some type of manner, and really it's not even, and this goes much deeper, it's not even really me speaking the truth, right? I feel like it comes from a much higher perspective, a higher power, and sometimes I'm used as the conduit to provide the message that is needed. Just like the last meeting that we were having, me and Johnny got to it a little bit early, and he was able to provide me with a very beautiful message. It's funny, I actually have it on, I'll have to show sometime, but it's on the face of my screensaver of my phone, so I read it every day, all day, and that really just gets me back to that point. And what I mean by that, there's always a feeling that's associated with that, right? When Johnny was able to speak that truth to me in that moment, it was something that I needed to hear exactly in that moment. It was right at the exact time of when I needed to hear it. And to me, when I'm getting those chills and I'm feeling that love, not only coming from Johnny, but also coming from the holistic source, then that's where I know that that is truth. And in turn, I know that Johnny also felt that same thing, right? It's the same thing when me and Chris are driving over to the venue that we were coming to today, and we started talking about a few things, and I was like trying to check myself with like, Chris, am I speaking truth to myself? Am I holding myself accountable? This was the situation. Did I mess up? Did I fuck up? Did I do something that I shouldn't have done? That, again, you know, because it always, to me, it leads with positive intent. And he was able to call it out and give me perspective. And in that moment, he was telling me and speaking the truth that I needed to hear. And not only am I grateful for that, right, but I'm also able to recognize that in myself, and again, being real with myself, right?
Yeah.
I love everything that you just said, because it really hits on a good positive note, you know. And if you really want to know if you're speaking truth, know that truth is on a love-based level. When something's sitting there being negative or doesn't feel right, that's not your truth. That's something else trying to show you another truth. It could be your ego. You know, it's not from your true center. So we definitely watch out for that. When's the last time you've had an experience with the truth, with speaking it, a situation or, you know, something that kind of rings your bell?
I go through truth every day. I mean, with you, with myself, with my wife. The last time I spoke truth is probably to my son. We were talking about just about his mom and how things have been going on in his life. His mom's an addict, and he's kind of had a lot of questions. And he actually came back from his time with his mom 2 weeks ago, and was asking some questions, telling me like, this was the first time I ever heard my mom actually speak to me as a real person. And it was kind of weird because I had spoke to her the same day, and it was like speaking to somebody for the first time, because she's been an addict. And that was kind of like, you know, like me and her kind of sat there, and it was like kind of like an honest thing for one time, you know. We really spoke truth about the kid, about how we're gonna build his life, if maybe she's gonna stop doing what she's doing. I mean, it was real. That's probably the last time I spoke truth.
See, and that's what I love, though, right? This is exactly what I'm talking about. So hopefully you guys can feel exactly what I was just feeling, right? Like I told you, for me, it's associated with some type of chill. That's where I know that that's truth, right? And Josh giving you the raw truth of exactly that situation, being vulnerable enough to share it with you guys, and not only with us. This is the first time that I'm hearing this, right? I could feel every single word that he was providing, and it was much deeper than just the word, right? The feeling that was associated with that as well, right? And that's what I'm saying as well, because we want to talk a little bit about like what positive truth is and what negative truth is, right? So, for example, Johnny brought up ego. Josh's example, right? There may have been some ego, let's say, on his son's mother's side, right? But he was able to speak that truth to her and get through to her to where she could have that realization and be like, okay, maybe I should be doing things differently for my son to make him better and to build him up and do better. And really, to me, it goes to two different things, right? You have love and you have fear, right? To me, love is the positive, fear is the negative, and then it also goes from true self to ego. Right? And I'm not talking egotistical, right? So those of you that have heard the term ego, what I'm talking about is ego is always associated with something fearful. So disappointment, insecurities, putting somebody down, bad intent, anything that's associated with that would go into your ego state, right? So for example, they could have gone a completely different direction for you guys, right? She could have come in and said, you know what, Josh, you're just trying to do this so that you can get the upper hand for our son and just be the one that shines and does all this other shit, right? But no, he took it from a very adult, mature manner, had the conversation he needed to have, and obviously it sounded like it came through, right?
I mean, speaking negative and positive truth, like I was saying before, I mean, I can speak negative truth, but it's purely ego, it's purely power driven, it's purely to get my upper hand on whatever I need to get my upper hand on to have control of that situation, you know. And when you speak truth on a positive level with yourself and out of love, you let go of the situation. You don't need to have control of anything because you're in a spot of exactly where you want to be. You know, you don't have to do that fight. You're pretty much, instead of resisting, you're renouncing it, and then you're working with it, because essentially we want to get that ego and trust to come on all sides of it, you know, and that's something you just got to work on day in and day out.
But you'll know too, right? Like that's the inner voice that I was talking about a little bit earlier, right? You know when you do something, if you did it and you were just like, well, shit, like maybe I shouldn't have done that, right? Or
It's a feeling. It's a feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're in the moment and you're like, all of a sudden you get that like that gross like residue type feeling inside, and you're just like, okay, you know, like if you really truly listen to yourself. And even the feelings that you get and the emotions that come with it, it'll tell you that from, you know, right from wrong. Same thing.
So do you want to elaborate more on what you think negative and positive truth talking is about, Chris?
This one's a little bit difficult for me. I think, okay, tell me if I'm wrong, okay? Negative truth is when you're saying something, but it's like coming from your ego, like you're manipulating somebody.
Truth.
No?
Truth.
Like, no, that's negative truth.
You're right.
Oh, okay, like that's true. And positive truth is like what it's supposed to be. Like, you know, I think like kind of like society kind of changes up, like when you want, like I do it all the time. Like I will say like, oh, I'm just being honest, and then I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, why am I apologizing if I'm being honest? You know, but it's because like society has usually like morphed most people's brains to take the truth as being a dick, but it's not. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I add a little bit to this, please?
Yes.
So okay. So I'm gonna use a very common example. Tattoos. Okay? People will think that, well, if you are gonna be in a truthful state of mind, Jesus and God and all these apostles or all these people are telling you that your body is a temple, and I agree, your body is a temple, right? But in my perspective, it doesn't necessarily mean if you get a tattoo that your body is now tainted and you're gonna go to hell, right? I feel like society does teach that in many different senses, but at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's not the case, right? So I use that as from a positive and a negative standpoint, right? If I am perfectly secure with myself and I have that loving relationship with the higher power, God, Jesus, source, whatever you wanna call it, then I'm gonna move with it and I'm gonna go from there. Just because I put some ink in my skin doesn't change what my heart is on the inside. It doesn't change what my soul is. It doesn't change my decision making and what I'm gonna do. It's not like, oh, okay, I don't have a tattoo, so all of a sudden I'm the best person in this world and I'm pure and all these things, and then once I get a tattoo, I'm gonna go and harm people. It doesn't work like that. It's not like you're injecting, you know, negativity into your body just by getting a tattoo, right? And I use that because judgment comes a lot of judgment comes with tattoos. Nowadays it's a little bit different, right? But for example, that's been a lot of that, right? And that's why specifically I choose spirituality over organized religion, because I feel that a lot of different organized religion, and it's okay if you disagree, this is just my opinion, is where it teaches you that by having those things or getting those to or doing that to your body in those situations is setting you up to enter the gates of hell, right? And so it just adds on to exactly what you're saying. The whole purpose of me saying that, right, is because society plays a big role in that, and that changes your thinking. And I challenge each and every one of you, just like I challenge anybody that I ever talk with, to really find your truth and what that is, no matter what society has to say about it.
I mean, truth can be so many different things, you know. With religion, there's how many different religions? You can find your truth in every single different one, or you can find it in one.
Or none.
It really is.
Or none. Right?
Or none.
I think it comes back to that feeling, like you said, like where it comes. The truth is a feeling. If it doesn't feel good, then don't do it, or like, or you know, it's just a feeling. Yeah, don't second guess it. Exactly, it's a feeling.
But always try it. Always try something. I don't believe just just hating something just because it's there or somebody else hates it or something. You got to figure it out yourself. Just like with tattoos, I mean, just like with anything, you got to figure it out yourself. It could be, you can't really hate a religion, you can't really hate anybody or say rude things about it, but because you don't really know about it, and there is positive things that can come out of anything.
Yeah, it's just like the judging the book by a cover,
Yeah.
right? I'll tell you a little quick story. So like, for example, like if I was ever intimidated back in the day when I didn't have self-love, if I was ever intimidated by somebody, I would do the manly thing, right? The manly thing of sizing them up. All right, well, what are they capable of? Are they athletic? Are they not? How smart are they? Like, how are they going to look better than me in my job, or whatever the case may be, right? The funniest thing is, and this is the beauty of the universe and God and everything that's created, is I always ended up being best friends with those people. You give it 3 months, and I am best friends with that person by that time, and I find that a lot of my interests and likes and dislikes, you know, were the same as theirs, right? And so I had to learn very quickly that, and I chose to learn very quickly to not judge that book by its cover, right? Even the other day, I was at my nephew's hockey game, and it was a championship game, and they actually won, right? They won by 1 goal. So they were taking a picture on the ice. Some of them were laying down, and one woman walks by and she goes, "Wow, that's just so ghetto," just because they were laying on the ice. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how can you? And I even asked my sister, because it was my dad. I was like, what was she even talking about? She's like, well, they associate that with a different area that we're located from, right? And that area is not necessarily known as the best, right? Kearns. But so because of that, then they associate that with a negative judgment that is coming through and being like, well, that's ghetto because of how they're posing in a picture. And it's like, dude, you're judging these little 8-year-old kids that just are on top of the world of winning a freaking hockey
Why
tournament.
even say
You
that?
know, like,
Why even throw that in there?
anyway, I just had to throw that. Right, but I guess one of the biggest things too, and anyone chime up on this, right, is like, why do we feel that truth is important?
Well, I think it's important hugely because that's how we talk to each other. That's how we communicate with each other. You know, is through language. And if you can't, you know, language and emotions. Okay. And those emotions are the same thing as speaking truth, and you got to get those connected with each other for you to help yourself out and return to help anybody else out. It's just as important as loving yourself. It's just that communication between yourself and the outside world, and connecting with that higher power and that higher self of unity.
So with that too, though, Johnny, is it just verbal? Do you feel?
No,
right?
No, it's definitely not. A lot of truth can be just speak or doing actions. You know, maybe you see an old lady walking into a store and she's having a tough time opening up that door. You just go over there, not even say a word, and open that up for her. Give her a smile. That could be truth, and that could be some more powerful thing than you can ever even say to her.
Or you're sitting there, and I've used this before. So I've been divorced for 3 years now, right? So in Utah, when you get a divorce, you have to go through a divorce class, right? And I actually, because since I have children. Yeah, so since I have children, you actually have to go to an extended class because how it affects the children. So this was when I started just started in dabbling into energy, right? I'm into this room, right? It's me, and I'd probably say 40, maybe 50 other people that are also getting divorces. Some of them actually took their ex-spouse to it as well. A little different, I guess, but it's okay. But what you could feel, and I'm saying this because I think a lot of us can really resonate with with the example that I'm going to give. Is I got in there, I went by myself, I just sat at my own desk and I just kept to myself, right? But the feeling in the room was tension, and just like it felt dirty, and it just felt like dark and creepy, and almost like you were like stuck in a closet of some type, you know, like it was like that scary space that you never want to be in, but you really just feel it, and it's just like resonating around you, right?
Because everybody's holding it. Everybody's holding that baggage and that those lies that's not even truth. That's why they're holding it on their back. They can't even put it inside of them to take it with them.
But that's what I mean, though, right?
But you can feel it for sure.
That's what I mean. Like if you ever, for example, if you've ever had, like you're watching a TV show, right? And I know I have a lot of examples in this episode, but if you're ever watching a TV show, and let's say it's a single one, X Factor or whatever else, right? And you're like, oh, that person they suck, dude. Like they can't sing for shit, right? You're literally giving all that negative energy and you're putting it out there into the universe.
That's how TV is now, though. Like all the reality TV, it's all like you're judging them without even like knowing them, and it's like you're like you have to judge the way they sing. You have to judge everything. Like they're just like giving you all this judging food, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's so good! Someone pass me the butter!" Like, you know, like
Twinkies and cupcakes. But that's the thing, though, right? You're sitting there throwing all this shit out there, right? You're like throwing touchdowns of negativity out there, and then the next day you get a flat tire, and you're just like, dude, Johnny, what? I got a flat tire, dude. I'm having the worst day, right? Karma, dude. Like it comes back to you, and that's what I'm talking about. So to bring it back to full circle, right? Is truth is really just the opposite of putting all of that negative energy, talking about negative energy, talking poorly about people, even in your body language, right? You've seen it where you've seen people, they'll walk in a room and there's all of a sudden they're all buff and big and just like, like I own this room, right? Like, dude, it's okay, like chill a little bit, you know, like here's a little chill pill for it, you know? Like it comes in so many different forms, right? I'm sure you can speak to this, right? With the past, but you know, I think that's all. I think we can all relate to that as well. And even the female and the women out there, right? I'm sure you've seen it where you're in school, you're in college, and all of a sudden you look over and you see this dude walking up, and you're just like, dude, he's got that stick up his ass or something. Like, you can tell he's really trying to like prove something, you know. But it doesn't need to happen that way.
But sometimes all it takes is for somebody to come over with their truth and be like, hey, bro, it's not that way like that in here. We're cool in here. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to be uptight. Like, come in, brother. Like, come in, sister. Like, just talking your truth to somebody else that doesn't have their truth, it definitely does connect, and it helps out the situation tenfold. You know, just like Josh was saying earlier with one of his exes. Like it's a powerful thing, and when you stay true to it, it just rubs off on people. People don't have a choice.
And it catches people off guard when you be yourself, coming up to them, you're not fake. You know, they see that, and they want to be that way, especially if you're, holding yourself the right way, doing the right things. I mean, they see that and they want to follow, kind of thing, or they get the ideas popping in their head like, what am I doing? Right.
Yeah, one of the biggest things, like in my coaching sessions that I do, right? I always tell people, being the best version of yourself is exactly what everybody needs. Everybody is unique. Everyone has their own gifts. And just by you being you show others that they can also be themselves. Now, people will say, well, I've been myself for however long, but I'm still not seeing a change. You got to remember as well, it's up to that person to choose to be their true self, right? It's all the same thing. If you want to choose to be true self, or if you want to be the egotistical side and put on all these masks and put on all these, different versions of yourselves and things like that as well, right? I think one thing that we can all relate to as well, and I'm sure Josh can share some of this too, because I think he's the only one really so Josh is like the only one that, I guess he's not the only one, right? But he can provide a lot of different perspective. But we talk about relationships and we talk about different things, right? I can definitely speak to the relationship that I have with these guys and how much not only they help me out by speaking truth and feeling truth and sending me love throughout the day. Like we're on this group text thread, right? And we're literally like throwing hearts out there, telling Chris we love him a million times, Like that's what we're doing. And Chris says he appreciates us, in which we know he does, right? Someday he's gonna crack that egg, but yeah, I think in a relationship standpoint, right? And I think this is where we could really just even do a whole other episode, I believe, on this type of topic. But for example, right, like I was even talking to a coworker today where she was like, I've been with my boyfriend for 3 months. There's only been 3 days that I have not seen him, right? And I'm like, well, why? Well, when are you taking that personal time to yourself, right? Like, and you can even see and feel the fear inside because she was so reliant and codependent on him being there. And if he wasn't there, then she was just gonna crumble, right? But I think how truth plays a role in that is really you being real with yourself. I think Josh mentioned that earlier in the episode, of being completely real with yourself and being like, hey, I'm in this honeymoon phase, and we all know what that's like, right? Like that's just like the biggest, fastest roller coaster you've ever been on, and you just want to keep feeding it and feeding it. But it's also very, it's very loving of self for you to go ahead and take a step back and be like, hey, I definitely want to be on this roller coaster with you, but let's go ahead and take a few steps back a little bit from time to time and just, take it as slow as possible, build that foundation, and really spend some time with ourselves as well, right? Because how many times do we really do that?
Right. Well, I think a lot of it too, I'm just going to hit on this really quick, is your truth comes from yourself. essentially it always comes from yourself. You can't have somebody else telling you what your truth is, because they can't. It literally can't. You know, being in a relationship, you can find out your truths and what your real truths are from the help of somebody, but they can't literally sit there and tell you what it is, because then you get self-reliant on them. Yeah. You can't grow together, you know, and it's just one of those things where you gotta search for it, and you gotta really want it, and once that starts going, it just starts flowing. It just flows and flows and flows and flows with abundance, you know. It's lovely.
Yeah, and I think so one of the biggest things with relationships and truth is most of them, I mean, I've grown up with, you know, friends and family members, you know, they get into these relationships and they're a totally different person when they're with me, and then you go around their friend or their wife or their kid or whoever, they're like a totally different person there. It's like you gotta always be that person that you are. You can't show a face, and you can't like keep the other person away from who they are either. Like I have a friend that would basically tell his girlfriend what to wear. Like she wasn't allowed to wear like certain clothes, and I was just like, oh my god, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. You know, because I mean, you guys think that's weird?
Yeah.
I think it's fucking weird.
It comes from a place of insecurity, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. And then, I mean, it just started off from there, and then it was like hanging out with your friends, like, no, we're staying home. It was like this bickering thing, like dudes, you know, like getting at each other about stupid things and just sticking with it. So then it's like basically you're stuck in a house with this person that you have all this negativity about because you can't do anything you actually want to do, and they're thinking the same thing. It's like you just really just got to be who you are and let that person be who they are. Just, I mean, me and my wife, we talk about everything, we do everything. We've been through hell together. Couldn't imagine doing it with anybody else, because anybody else would have been gone. She's really a writer, like for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm myself with my wife. I don't put on a face. I mean, I don't put on a different. I'm never not Josh. Like I don't change. I mean, when my friends are here, I'm still the same guy. Even with around my kids, I'm not gonna put on some face of some speciality in front of my wife and kids that I am not, because I'm just Josh, you know, and she's just Charlie, and they're just the kids.
We love them both and the whole family, right? And they're not just an organ.
Yeah.
So, perspective, man.
I know.
Give us a little bit of your perspective.
So I think, like I said, you know, the truth starts with yourself, and that's where I like to surround myself with people that are honest, like these guys. I remember one time I was having a hard time. Like I felt so negative. It was a Monday. I remember it. It's like, oh, it was a Tuesday. I remember it. And then I went to dinner with my friend Sebastian, and I was just he was telling me his story, and you know, for some reason, like I felt so much better. But then I was like, dude, I feel better. And he told me the truth. He literally said to my face, he said, dude, I don't give a fuck. And I was like, oh, all right. And for some reason, I was like, dude, thank you. You know, like I wasn't like, you know what, dude? See you later, alligator. You know, no, I literally was like, fuck, like it. I was like, damn, I didn't expect that, but at the same time, I was like, thank you, dude. I think that's where truth and like, if you hang out with people that tell the truth, you're gonna want to tell the truth. I think you said it right. Like what did you say? Something like it's contagious. You know. When you start hanging out with people that want to tell the truth, they're like, well, I guess I'll tell the truth, you know? And it goes back to like, when you start telling the truth, you start becoming your real self, which is probably one of the hardest things out there. Like I like to vlog, and I think that really pushed me out there to be, or find myself a little bit, right? Like I went to New York and I just vlogged it, because back in the day I used to like go to college and like have my phone out, and I'd be like, oh fuck, there's somebody else in the parking lot with me, like 50 feet away, and I'm like, nah, they're gonna judge you. They're gonna
I know.
But then when I went to New York and I vlogged it, there's like, if you ever been to New York, there's so many people. It's like literally a swamp meet everywhere, right? And so like I was like, you know what? I can't go anywhere. So I was like recording it, and I was like, fuck it, dude. And you know, I think that really pushed me, you know. And I think the thing that you said about that lady, when they're codependent with somebody, is that your people are usually afraid to be alone.
Yeah.
And I think now this generation, like the little kids, like they are gonna be like super, like they're gonna be afraid to be alone, because like with all the technology, and I'm not saying technology is bad, I just think it depends on how you use it. You know, like Instagram for me is a different platform now. It's like a tool for me. I don't use it for like pictures and stuff. It's they're tools.
And to be honest with you, I'm not like big on I don't research and I'm not extensive in this, right? But I did read this article about in a study. So all you people that are about the scientific side of all this, right? Is like dopamine, for example, right? Like when if the first thing you do in the morning is picking up your cell phone and you're on Facebook and all these social media sites or playing a game or whatever, right? Or like if your child is always demanding for your phone or to play a game or to watch a movie or whatever, it's really releasing that dopamine inside their brain. And when they don't have that, then that's where it's really like a drug, right? And they're scarce for it, they're fiending for it, they're needing it or whatever, you know, whatever that is. And the times are different, right? Like you've seen that many times on Facebook where it's like they compare the then to now, right? Where like then you see these kids outside playing in the yard doing whatever, right? Playing hopscotch, and then the now times is like all these kids just literally huddled together with freaking iPads and shit.
Playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the times are different, but like that really keeps us and gets us away from the centered portion of ourselves and our souls, because it's really just a distraction. Right, and I'll be very vulnerable and honest. Like, there's been times where I've been on social media way too much than I should have been, right? And I could find myself, and then I had to give myself that realization of like, dude, you literally been on Facebook for like the last 2 hours. Like,
Oh God.
you know, like get off, right? Like, dude, like,
What are you doing?
yeah, like that's the thing. Like, I'm just going video after video. You know what I mean? But like that shit even ruins relationships too, dude. How many people? Oh my God. I go out to eat, dude. I told you this is a whole other episode, right? But I go out to eat. Let's say me and Johnny are just going out chilling, let's go to Olive Garden or something, right? And all of a sudden you look over to your side and you see these people, they literally just pull out their iPad and, you know, sit it up, and they're eating and they're just watching their favorite TV show or some shit.
Yeah.
They're not even like there with each other, dude.
It's weird.
You know what I mean? Or you'll see people, they're just like sitting there waiting in line because, you know, there's a wait at the restaurant or whatever. They're literally always on their phone. Like, how many times do you see people, and I challenge you guys to do this next time you go out to eat, is how many times do you see people like literally just interacting with each other, no electronics, no nothing, not even checking their phones or whatever that is, right? And just really having that connected conversation and really putting in that time for each other, right? And it's not just romantic, this is any type of relationship. Right?
And another thing too that I ended up wanting to touch on is actually the truth with your kids. With kids is huge. I mean, if there's one thing you can do, people, it is sharing your truth with your kid and having your kid starting to share his truth or her truth, no matter what age they are. I mean, you can share with your little baby girl when she's 2 weeks old, and you should send that love to her from your heart, you know. But that's one thing I always strive on when my daughter's here. You know, I get her for the summers here in Utah, and I just strive for her to love herself and to speak her truth, no matter what she says, because she can go to school and you can't do this and you can't do that and blah 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 blah, and it's like, how is a person supposed to develop who they really are and what their really truth is when they're so structured and saying that's wrong, this is wrong? Like, no, like, let the kid be a little kid. If they need to learn their lessons from it, that's what they're here to do. That's what we're here to do. But you can always approach it with truth, with love and an open heart, and it always goes in the best way. And I mean, if you can do that for your kids, that is one of the most beautiful things you can do, and you'll watch them grow up to be something special, you know.
Dude,
like,
yeah.
That's what we need in this world right now.
Well, we talk about like, okay, we have all these different classes and all these, you know, you have so many, you know, classes you need to take, whatever, to graduate and all this other stuff, right? But how many times or how many classes are there out there that are really teaching you to love yourself and find your truth and be who you truly are, right? There's none. There's none out there, right?
None.
So to Johnny's point, what I do with my oldest boy is not every night, right? But majority of the nights that I have him, we literally go through a set of affirmations right before we go to bed. I have him repeat right after me. I'll say, I love myself, I'm confident, I don't judge others, I'll treat people with respect. It doesn't matter what it is, right? And then I always have him share and give love to his little brother, to anyone else or whatever that's there as well. And that's how we end our nights, right? And normally I'll end with some type of prayer because that's who I am. But to that point, right? Like, us as parents, I feel like, again, it is our responsibility to really teach those ways with our children. The same thing when you talk about hate teaches hate, right? people that are racist, for example, right? It's really, you notice that it just trickles down into the children, that whatever they're seeing, that's all they're gonna know, and that's what they're gonna represent, unless they really get to a point where they can choose differently, right? And that's on them, but it doesn't set them up in a very good and positive manner, and because they're already getting brought up in all that bullshit, I feel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, if you want things to start changing in this world for a positive, we gotta start with the kids. You start with yourself first and most fully, but it trickles definitely down to the kids.
I was just saying Michael Jackson said that, you want to change the world, you have to change yourself first.
Yeah.
Man in the mirror. That's it.
Yeah, Man in the Mirror, it's huge. It's a
That's
good
my
song.
favorite song. Don't lie to your kids. That's the biggest thing too. I think keeping truth about everything you do in your life, whether it be something that somebody else is gonna say something wrong about, anything, you gotta just don't lie to them, because when you lie to your kids and they find out you're lying, it's worse than anybody else finding, and it's real hard. So you just tell them the truth about everything you do. Just be open.
So one little nugget, I love that you said that. One little nugget. We talked about the divorce class, right, a little bit. One of the things is the instructor, the facilitator says, she gets up and she says, okay, so if your kids, doesn't matter how old they are, right? If they ask you why you got a divorce, what are you going to tell them? And there's a bunch of people there who are just like, I'm going to tell them how bad their mother is. I'm going to tell them who their father really is, and like all this shit, right? All this ego and all this negative and all the negativity and all this hatred coming out. And she goes, why? Why would you do that, right? And to Josh's point, right? If it's not necessarily, it's not their responsibility as to why you got a divorce or why you're splitting with your spouse or whatever that is. But she says, how about you try this? How about all you do is you tell them that it doesn't matter why we got the divorce, but all that does matter is that we love you for who you are, and that we're always going to be here for you, right?
Yeah.
Even though you're not, spewing out all that bullshit between you and the other person, that doesn't mean that you are lying to them, but you're still giving them the truth, and you don't need to tell them those details, because I'll guarantee a lot of that time they're going to take that on themselves and they're going to blame themselves, because again, your mind wants to go to that negative spot more far often than not, right? But again, treat it as a situation where, no, we are here, we love you, we're always going to be here for you, we're always going to provide for you, and knowing that you also can't control the other party, right? You may have another party that is also talking all this mad shit, but you can't control that. All you can do is control yourself, and then you can be there for your children and you be there for your child when they're having that hard day or that tough day or whatever, and just let them know we still love you, we'll always be here, and just continue to get that going and reprogram that mindset at a very young age, and in turn they're going to start to live that and cultivate that positivity, that love, that truth, and sharing it with the world naturally themselves, right?
Well, that's 100% truth right there. It's not the long, extensive, right in the middle of everything truth, because you don't want to say that. I mean, think about what you're telling your kids. If you're their age, would you want your mom or dad telling you something about your mom or your dad or your uncle or somebody else that you love? No, you don't. I went through my parents' divorce when I was like 21 or 22, and the things that they ran me through being at that age messed me up. And I was 22. I just imagine what they're doing, what's going on in their head, and have your appreciation, but still, tell them your truth. You don't have to lie to them about it, but you don't have to shove everything in their face,
Nope.
I think you should, kind of not talk about everything that goes on, but there is I think there is certain circumstances where you have to wake your kids up at an early age. Sometimes kids have no idea what's going on around them, and I don't know how much you guys know about like growing up rough, but my son, he was in a homeless shelter for a long time with his mom, and the only way that he could ever not want to be with her is I had to tell him like what was going on. I had to tell him that she was putting cigarettes in front of him, meth, heroin, because his life was in shambles. You know what I mean? Like, it was really hard to see him that. I don't know if you guys have ever even been in a homeless shelter, but it's probably the most overwhelming thing that you guys will ever go, especially family ones, because it's like a big warehouse, cot to cot, kid to kid, no regulations. You can't, pedophiles can kick it there. It's a totally horrible place. If I wouldn't have told my kid what was going on, he wouldn't want him to leave. There's certain circumstances I believe that you have to kind of show him what's going on, because of course, it's horrible out there.
But that's speaking the truth, though, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for speaking that truth, Josh. You know, it's definitely one of those things where it's a harder situation to go through, but knowing that they need that, or I mean, it could be in a relationship too. You know, something that you feel in your heart needs to happen and needs to be said, but you're too scared that your girlfriend's gonna leave you or your mother's gonna hate you because you said something to her. Like, you know, you need to speak your truth. Like, even when it comes on those times, you know, but it always seems to work out better if you speak your truth. That's definitely for sure a thing that I've learned in my life.
Yeah, you always gotta just weigh it. You know what I mean? Figure out what's best.
Balance it.
Yeah, go with your heart, right? Your heart
Yeah.
will tell you the truth and what you should share, shouldn't share, and
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be rude about it either. You know, you just teach them, because there's always different ways. I mean, just like what you. I mean, there's always something different to do. So.
yeah. Well, anything else on truth, boys?
I just want to say that like think everyone's stories, you know, telling everything about truth, like it made me think made me go back and like think about like who I was like what is this, 2018 like maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe, like I was a liar, dude. I would lie to girls all the time like just to get what I wanted. I would lie to girls all the time. And I remember one specific time, this happened I think like recently, I apologized to a friend and I said, hey, I'm sorry, you know, like I was lying to you and I just want to be honest with you. Like it was hard, but it was scary. And then she literally said to my face, she was like, okay, I really appreciate that, but I don't want to be your friend anymore. And I said, dang, all right, you know, like I don't know, like we just talked it out and then, you know, like everything's fine now, but like in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, like I was nervous. I wanted to get out of there. Like I wanted it to be over with, but like, I just think through that experience, like I just want to be honest with people and myself. And I think that being honest is like one of the best things that you could ever do for yourself.
Please feel free to like this video. Comment, give us the feedback that you feel is needed. We'd love to hear from you guys, your stories, your examples of what you feel truth is. Stay tuned. We have another episode for episode 3. It's going to be on awareness. So obviously stay tuned for that. But always feel free to reach out to us as well. Personal messages are fine. We take that on. We'll respond as quickly as we possibly can. But we appreciate you guys. We love you for being there with us during this episode. And again, like we've always said, feedback is very important to us. So let us know what you're liking, not liking. We'll see what we can do about that. Because we want to continue to speak our truth and share our hearts and see what we can do with it. So we love you guys. We love Chris. And we'll see you next time. See you
The
guys.
movement within.
Love you.